thing, and and going from just producing to actually. They've succeeded us in some of the technical issues because they've gotten so good that they are now more adept at saying what they might think might be wrong with the machine, or an issue that we might have in the workspace, and I think that has really made a big difference for them. And then of course it makes a difference also to be able to save up and send home money to your family. I think that's a load of stress that we as outsiders can't fully understand, and surely that must make a difference to them as well.
And how are sales doing? Are clients responsive?
They are. Sales are doing really well. I think we sometimes forget that we've actually only been open for business for 6 months. We're a fairly new company, so even though we've been active and producing and officially here for a year and a half, we've actually only been open for business for 6 months. So I think considering we've only been there, I think we're very, very proud of our sales numbers. And we were sort of, we laugh about that sometimes, we were sort of armored for a lot of critique when we opened because, there's a lot of sensitive issues around prison labor and everything else, but people have been really supportive. And I think we feel like, I think we're really hitting a nerve in terms of the consumer of today. I think people are really ready for a brand that has transparency in the way that we do, and that has a positive footprint and all that stuff. So we've been really blessed with the warmth and support and everything from our customers. I think in our part of the world, people still have to get used to the online market rather than the traditional retail. But I think we don't get returns, and I think I'm trying to be modest whilst saying we're actually very proud of how it's been going.
So most of your clients are from Denmark, or do you have an international clientele base?
It's pretty international. I think when we did a crowdfunding, which is how we started off just over a year ago, which is how we financed the machinery and the training of the women and so on. And like for our crowdfunding, which went really well, we got funded within the first 12 hours. And I think maybe 60 or 70% of our backers were Danish, I think that was very sort of influenced by our network and combined networks and so on. But since then, I think because we try to keep a quite international approach to the brand, it's actually shifted a little bit. So now it's more like 60-40. So 60% is within Denmark and 40% is international. And that's actually from all over the world, surprisingly. We have everywhere from Tokyo and Australia to the States and different places from Europe and so on. So there's no really one particular place in the world that where our customers are from. It's actually quite sort of spread out.
Okay, yeah. So your landing page says that what you're doing signals a new era for fashion, where each product solves a problem instead of creating one. Do you think that the mainstream fashion industry creates more problems than it solves? And how do you come in to change that?
Well, that's I'm going to struggle to answer that, but only because we really try not to be what's it called, to have a lifted finger. What is that called? Not to be preaching. But yes, so even with a lifted finger, yes, I definitely think the mainstream fashion has a huge negative impact on the world.
Can you give us some examples of this impact? For example, you said about environment, or taking advantage of the third world.
It's, for instance, with the environment, it's the second most polluting industry in the world, next after oil. So it's much worse than everything else, and that's I think that's because of a lot of different issues. There's water consumption and all the chemicals that comes from dyes, and there's the transport of stuff, and then there's especially the burning of a lot of products, all the unsold products that just get burned or wasted and just are waste and trash in the world. So environmentally, there's a huge issue. And then on a social impact scale, I mean, I think this, and this is in news. I mean, there was that film on Netflix not too long ago. Do you remember what the name is? True Cost, I think it was called. There's been a number of different documentaries that was sort of like went behind the scenes on the fast fashion and everything. And so I think there's no secret in that mass production and clothing industry is really pressuring the producers. All the factories around, especially in Bangladesh and India and all these places where workers are being paid nothing, so that these big corporations, can sustain the low prices and all that stuff. But I mean, for us, we don't try to make too much of a case of that. I don't think there's anything new in that. I think most people know it. I think we try to do, instead of preaching about it, we try to take the positive approach, which is instead to be transparent about how we do it. And hopefully in the long run, I mean, one thing is the impact that we create for the women that are working for us, but I think our dream is that the real impact that we will have is that we are, joining sort of a movement to change the industry as a whole, for the consumers to get used to transparency, and that is always apparent or easy to find out who made your clothes, and that they're paid decently, and that the fabrics and the materials that you use aren't too damaging to the world, to the environment, and so on. So I think where the way that we produce right now is definitely something that we use in terms of marketing, and it's what makes us stick out. In the long run, we hope to be mainstream. We hope that our way of production is going to be mainstream. I mean, that's the dream, right? That everyone in 15 years will see that it's more profitable to be decent to the world and the workers that are within our industry, and therefore, will join.
And that's where I want to focus on, and which basically gives me some ideas for more articles, is what you said, that what right now seems innovative or perhaps coming to attack something from the sidelines will become mainstream. So yes. I'm wondering, are the times ripe for ventures like yours or others that are more like disruptors? I mean, what has changed? What has changed? And there is a shift in preferences. I mean, in the 90s, nobody would have even thought of, you have the mammoth fashion lines, the haute couture, everybody should buy these. Nobody would develop the kind of environmental and social thinking that has come with our times. Do you think something has changed? Do you think average people's views have changed?
Yeah, I think they have. I mean, definitely on a larger scale, and this is completely uneducated because I'm not, I don't know that much in detail about it, but my personal, view on it is that, of course, there's, the internet has changed a lot, right? So we've become much more aware of the state of our environment and the consequence of everything that we do in consumerism and so on. And I think that the coming generation, like the millennials, I know that everyone talks about the millennials, but they are a really interesting group and generation, because I think they're so savvy and adapt to the web. That you can't fool them with things. I mean, they know about stuff. They're enlightened. They're well read. They're They can figure out and research things in an instant. You know, our parents' generation, if they were told this is the product you want, they had to accept that. They had to base everything on the branding. Whereas the new generation, you can't fool them, you know. So I think there's a completely different awareness. I think there's and then that on top of the fact that the world and the environment is more than ever calling out for, you know, a changing in the way that we treat it, right? So I think it's sort of a mix of all those things, and I think also mass production and was sort of a rising thing of the end of the 90s and after the millennium. So every time there's something new, you know, it has to ride a wave of success, and then it isn't until sort of, you know, the backside of its newness that people start looking into the repercussions of it, or the, you know, the infrastructure of it and so on. So I think there's a lot of reasons why the world is ripe right now for different kinds of companies, and you can tell also, like, even like, you know, the word sustainable fashion, that wasn't a very sexy thing to say 10 years ago.
Yes.
And that's something that's really changing. You know, you can really tell that
it's changing now.
It is changing. Yeah, it's very much changing.
Yes.
And I think
it becomes sexy. You know.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I think Denmark is an interesting place to be. For that. I mean, we have the Copenhagen Fashion Summit, which is becoming quite big and quite popular, and which definitely isn't unsexy. It's very much, it's very current and modern, and it's built on, you know, new technologies and cool companies and everything. So I think Denmark's already at the forefront of, you know, sustainability in a lot of ways, and in a way that feels current and not sexy maybe, but not uncool at least. And I think that's going to be a massive change. That it doesn't become, and it's no longer an uncool thing to be sustainable or aware or socially responsible and so on.
Perfect. So my last question for you is this: do you have any plans for the future of expanding or trying out something different?
Yeah, I think in the immediate future we have the project with the Thai prison. So we're setting up production in Thailand as well. And I think with that comes a lot of other opportunities. Like, and I think this is where it gets really interesting for us. Like, we've had, you know, meetings with UN in terms of rewriting sort of a protocol for what is, you know, minimum you can ask of working environments in prison and stuff like that. And I think this is where, for us, I mean, we have so many. We have different North Stars, right? We want to make beautiful products that people buy because they're beautiful and nice and of good quality, and not because it's a charity. And at the same time, we have this. It feels like we have this chance for actually making an impact by with others and rewriting what the standards are for labor rights and so on. So I think this is what's in the pipeline for us the next year, which is really interesting. And so far, I mean, the trial project that we're doing in Thailand, we're working with the Thai government. So already then it would actually, so in a way, pave the way for other companies to do business in Thailand, and that hopefully means that we can have an impact on all prisoners in Thailand, not only the ones that we hire. And once you use that as an example, you know, you can then hopefully implement that to a whole region and so on. So I think the practical things that are in the pipeline hopefully will give birth to some more global impactful steps to changing the industry and so on. And I think that's mostly what's in the pipeline for us right now. And